Shalom and good day all. This is Tehillim29 back again for another DC review. And in this DC review, I'll be covering Titans Beast World, issue 6. Yay! Good riddance. Of course, the Trinity special, to which I'll be covering all stories as one story, and along with also the world's finest annual for 2024, to which I'll pretty much cover all stories as one story. So let's get things organized for the first one that I'll be covering. So, jumping on the first things first, does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to something that is happening inside with the story? In some essence it does, to which I give it a 7 out of 10. Now it's time to move into the area of the internal art, as also what's happening story-wise with the characters, as we have a look around the beginning, middle, and of course the end. So as the story begins, we have Raven being confronted by her, I guess, her alter self. And let me say something with this. I think this idea was a really bad idea, and I think they could have gone with something a little bit smarter in relation to this. So I'll now move to the middle part of the story, and apart from that, I do quite like the art in this. As we start to jump towards the middle of the story, we get to see a bit of a fight take out between this Dr. Hate, aka / Raven, and we have the work of Wally West playing a part, to which he destroys Dr. Hate's helmet. And last but not least, towards the end, to which we learn that Raven is actually now in the stone, and of course Beast Boy is A-OK. For the internal art, I give it a 7 out of 10. Now it's time to move in relation to the story. So first things first, do we get anything comic reference-wise? Sure enough, we do, to which we get a reference to Nightwing issue 104, which had to do with, if I remember, when Nightwing had to basically secure the soul of a young girl, which I think belonged to a villain, and had to make sure that she was safe and try to be a hero with that. Next is the area of time, to which we have later being used 3 times throughout this story, and nothing really giving us maybe even like a 15 minutes before certain events, which was quite annoying, because it probably would have given the story a little bit more gravitas. With the locations in the story, we had the Borough of Sovereignty, we had the Titans Tower, we had Gotham, we also had elsewhere being used in regards to wherever the hell Waller was, and of course, last but not least, the Hall of Justice, which has now been renamed the Hall of Order under Amanda Waller. The cast of characters consisting of Peacemaker, Amanda Waller, the Titans. We saw Detective Chimp. We saw members of the Justice League, as well as John Kent. If it's one thing I were to bring up about this, and something that I really think DC could have done better, and that is in relation to the character of Dr. Hate, and this will fall directly into the story rating, is that if it's one thing I think DC is lacking in using, how about characters that are shapeshifters? In other words, they're able to shapeshift into people within the actual DC universe. The reason I bring this up is I think a shapeshifter would be well used as a villain character, instead of doing what they did with Dr. Hate, with the character being or appearing as Raven. And the advantage is is of having a shapeshifter, because we know that John Johns actually can shapeshift into a human, even though he's also called Martian Manhunter. Well, what if we brought in, say, another character, but in this case, the character might actually be human, but because of their abilities, in other words, it's sort of like a DC version of Shang Tsung. Yes, they are a villain, and because of their skills, they're sort of like able to mimic other people and also some of their attacks or whatever. The advantage is with this is that, number one, you don't have to pull anyone from outside the multiverse or inside, or even connect it directly to the gem that is connected to Raven, because this person might already have knowledge and information about that gem because of their abilities, and they also know how to, I guess, twist the gem to their ideas. And I think with that as well, when it comes to, say, the last fight or event that takes place in this particular story, okay, it is believed that Raven, or this evil Raven, has been defeated. Okay, we know that they tried to do a swap over with it, but in time it's gonna be discovered that, of course, it's not who it is. But the advantage of maybe having someone who is a shapeshifter is that you could still have them use the character of Raven's appearance, but when they're not around, we see him change into someone else's appearance, to which it would make it appear, it would appear less conspicuous, to which Nightwing and the rest of the Titans would have issues in sort of like discovering who the character is. About the only other thing that would be sort of left with the character is actually discovering their true identity, seeing that they're not quite Clayface, right? Because we know Clayface as well can also shapeshift into other people. But when he shapeshifts to other people, he can't really use any of their abilities. But if you have like a shapeshifter that is able to use their abilities, it would make the foe a little bit more dangerous and maybe even a little bit more harder to find in the story. Alright, jumping directly into the story rating, to which I give it a 5.5 out of 10. Now it's time to move into the Trinity special. So as we begin to move into the Trinity special, does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to something that is happening inside of the story? In some essence it does, to which I give it a 7 out of 10. Now it's time to move into having a look at the story around the beginning, middle, and of course the end. Considering that this special has all the backup stories that were in the Wonder Woman, I'm not actually worried about that, because the only thing that I really did want to get in relation to this was actually this itself. I didn't want to have to pick up the Wonder Woman only just to read the backup stories, only for these backup stories to be later on in the Trinity special. It would be a waste of time for me, and this is why this is a better option for me than just grabbing issue after issue after issue of the terrible Tom King Wonder Woman. So let's see how he goes in relation to this. Do I actually enjoy it or not? So we now need to have a look at the art around the beginning, middle, and of course the end. And also what's happening story-wise with the characters. So as we start to move into the beginning of the story, now I will probably end up missing a couple of chapters, but I have read all these chapters all the way through, including the last one. And we get to see Damian Wayne and Samuel Kent, meeting up with little Trinity or Lizzo. We jump a little bit further into the story, to which this takes place towards one of the last couple of stories, and this is happening on Themyscira. Of course, we get the terrible one-shot, which shows that Tom King has not paid attention, let alone any attention, to either of the Super Sons characters, and he still hasn't. This was somewhat one of the better stories in it, and I think the backups should have been more centralized on this than what it was on, I guess, the babysitting side of things. So for the internal art, I give it a 7 out of 10. Now it's time to move in relation to the area of the story. First things first, do we get anything in relation time-wise as to when some of these events take place? No, we don't, but it should have been there. Next is the area known as the locations, to which we see Wayne Manor, we see the Batcave, we see the Fortress of Solitude, and of course we see Themyscira. The cast of characters consisting of Damian Wayne Robin, John Kent, Lizzo, and also Killer Croc. We also get to see Wonder Woman in it as well later on. For the overall story rating in this, I give it a 5 out of 10. I did not really enjoy the depiction of the Super Sons in this. I think it could have been better. And the way how Tom King sort of introduced us to Lizzo's character, I think this character needs more mother-daughter moments than daughter-babysitter moments, to which it does get 5 out of 10. Last but not least, let's move into the World's Finest Special. So, as we begin to move into the World's Finest Special, does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to something that is happening inside with the story or stories? Sure enough it does, to which I give it an 8 out of 10. This was probably one of the best covers out of all three of these, and I really liked it because it also worked with many of the stories that were actually inside it. Even though I will be rating it all together as one story, it's now the time to move into the area of the internal art, as we have a look around the beginning, middle, and of course the end. And also what's happening story-wise with many of the characters. So, as we start off, we're in the 5th dimension, and we get to see quite a bit of information here, as we see that there are more 5th dimensional beings. And yes, many with the corresponding characters connected to the DC universe. And I must admit, I quite like this. This was probably one of my favourite stories in this. Along with a couple of others as well that I quite enjoyed. Now it's time to move towards the middle. As we start to move towards the middle of the story, this centers around the character of Bumblebee and also some of her upbringing, and also how she practically, in a way, became her hero character. And last but not least, we have the challenges of the unknown, and I must admit, I really quite enjoyed the art in this, along with the characters and the story that was provided. Yes, there was a character that centered on Metamorpho, but that ended up getting missed in this, but now it's time to move directly into the next thing, which is the rating for the arts, which I give it a 7.5 out of 10. So next is the area of the story. Considering how far we have gotten in the World's Finest series of Batman and Superman, did we get any references to any of the previous issues of that? No, we didn't, though it might not hurt to include it in future issues or future annuals. Next is the area of time, to which we had now, the next day, and later being used in a couple of the stories. Next is the locations, to which we had the fifth dimension. We had Metropolis. We also had the Markovia, and we also had the Buckland headquarters. Last but not least, we have the cast of characters consisting of Batmite and many of the fifth dimensional imps. To Mr. Mixaplit. Of course, we got to see Batman, we got to see Superman, we got to see Metamorpho, Bumblebee, and last but not least, the Challenges of the Unknown. For my overall rating for this, I give it an 8 out of 10. Until then, let's keep it colourful and have yourself an awesome day.